The bone-chilling sound of a spooked rattlesnake has evoked fear and aggression against this little understood reptile for eons. Welcome to Incredible Idaho. I'm Jack Hemingway. Tonight we begin our show by answering a few vexing questions about rattlesnakes. Why are people so afraid of them? Why do they consider them as demons? And further, why do they kill them at will all the time? Eventually, we hope to build up a better understanding of the Great Basin rattler, a creature that deserves some measure of respect, like any other.
Many people have a deep-seated fear of rattlesnakes, a fear that has reached mythic proportions. These fears have been perpetuated for hundreds of years by literature, even the Bible, and more recently, by Hollywood movies such as the 1969 Western classic, True Grit. The wanton shooting of rattlesnakes is deeply embedded in our culture. A number of southern states hold rattlesnake roundups every year as a big-time family and tourism event.
Thank goodness for the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup. It increases the people coming into our community. These people, in turn, increase all the retailers' business.
From the time that there's records of man on Earth, man has used animals for his own benefit. And I really feel that we're trying, or at least there's a portion of the people trying to do away with something that is natural and has been natural for millions of years.
Stop the slaughter now! Stop the slaughter now!
Rattlesnake roundups have never been held in Idaho, but the notion that the only good rattlesnake is a dead one has ruled for years. Since the white man came to Idaho in the 1800s, it's been common practice for people to shoot rattlesnakes at will. Rick Baker, a native Idahoan, remembers killing snakes as a kid.
I can remember the first time I ran into one. It was kind of like a super shot of adrenaline. Your feet defy gravity and you're in the air and you're shooting or kicking or stoning or clubbing the thing because you're scared to death of it. I don't know where it came from. I think my grandfather used to tell stories about snakes that were huge, as big as your leg, and could eat you, and about an old boy that bought a pair of boots who someone else had worn and who died from a rattlesnake bite, and a piece of the fang was in the heel of the boot, and he wore them and he died. So the age of innocence and my naivete as a kid, boy, I'd see a rattlesnake and it pretty much immediate hunter-killer reaction, get rid of that booger.
That kind of attitude, handed down from generation to generation, is hard to overcome. But it turns out that many people who actually get bitten by rattlesnakes are the same people who try to kill them, or mess around with them in some manner.
Now what we're seeing is young males, slightly intoxicated, that have been handling snakes. They're either out along a drainage ditch or along the river or up in the hills, see a rattlesnake, they chase it, they catch it, they pick it up, or they kill it and they think it's dead, and then when they take a hold of it, it bites them.
Dr. Blackman suggests that the best thing to do is avoid rattlesnakes and you won't get bitten.
And for the most part, the rattlesnakes here are not aggressive rattlesnakes. There's a misperception that we have diamondbacks in Idaho. We don't. And you almost have to step on it before you get bit by it, and it's only purely defensive. These are not aggressive animals.
Vince Cobb, a research wildlife biologist for Idaho State University, wholeheartedly agrees. Cobb has been studying the Great Basin rattlesnake at the Idaho National Engineering Laboratory for the last 5 years. During that time, he's handled over 565 rattlesnakes, and he's never been bitten once.
The rattlesnakes really aren't an aggressive animal at all. That they try to stay hidden, and most of the times when you come up on a rattlesnake, they'll rattle and then just try to escape. Sometimes they'll just stay coiled and hidden in the tuft of grass or under the sagebrush or under a rock, wherever they are, in hopes that you'll just pass right by.
In the course of his research, Cobb has discovered a number of interesting things about rattlesnakes. For instance, he has found that female rattlesnakes give birth only once every 3 years. And that's if conditions are just perfect.
If someone comes in and eradicates many individuals from this den, and they happen to be a large number of females that were, say, pregnant that were killed, then you could imagine the effect that could have on the population, especially if you have several years of this.
In other states, Cobb says that whole rattlesnake dens have been wiped out with dynamite or gasoline fires. This could have an impact on the overall ecosystem and food chain.
All animals seem to serve a good purpose, and the snakes are a very important one. They're a top carnivore. They primarily, the rattlesnakes anyway, primarily feed on small mammals. And, you know, I could imagine if you eradicated a lot of snakes from a specific area that had a good number of small mammals, then the population of the small mammals could increase.
So as Vince Cobb suggests, the Great Basin rattlesnake plays an important role in the balance of nature, and that's why people like Cobb ask people to think twice about shooting rattlesnakes at will. After realizing that Great Basin rattlesnakes are more passive than aggressive, Rick Baker doesn't shoot them anymore.
Well, I started hanging around some environmentalists and began to make me realize that just because it was crawling or walking on the ground, I didn't need to be shooting at it. It was a good lesson. Really, the rattlesnake, there's nothing to really be afraid of unless you're right on top of him and he's going to bite you. Even then, I've seen times where I've been just inches away from a snake and the snake's coiled and ready to go, and all you got to do is sidestep and you're out of their way.
If you do somehow get bitten by a rattlesnake, Dr. Blackman has the following advice.
What you need to do when you're bitten by a rattlesnake is to first of all get away from the snake, because it can bite a second time. Don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out what kind of a snake it was. Basically, you immobilize the arm right below the heart and you head for a medical facility, because it's a matter of minutes to hours when you get sick, and you get very sick. And you get very nauseated, and you get shocky, and a lot of swelling and so forth, and you really become quite ill. So it's important that once you're sure that you've sustained a rattlesnake bite, that you go where you can get some assistance.
In some cases, a rattlesnake bite can be harmless if the snake fails to release venom when it strikes. Dr. Blackman says it will be obvious if any venom has been released.
So you need to look at the wound and see what's happening. If it doesn't swell, if within an hour's time, after you think you've been bitten, if there's no swelling, there's no bleeding around the openings, there's a very good chance you haven't been bitten. You can sit tight.
In rare cases, if someone gets bitten by a rattlesnake and fails to seek immediate medical treatment, they could die. But this is extremely rare. Out of 45,000 snakebite cases nationwide each year, only 10 to 12 cause death.
I can hear one. You hear that one? It's over here just beyond these rocks, it sounds like. So watch your step here.
After studying the Great Basin rattlesnake for 5 years, Vince Cobb has a newfound respect for this most despised reptile.
It's very exciting to run up on rattlesnakes in the wild. It gives you a real adrenaline rush. They're nothing to fear like people think they are. They're not trying to attack. They're not trying to bite you. You know, if you get an animal cornered, it is going to attack and it is going to bite you. And that's true for most animals. Mm-hmm. And it's also going to be true for rattlesnakes. But if you see a rattlesnake and you just walk on by it, it's going to go its own way and you can go yours.
Anyone who shoots rattlesnakes must have a valid Idaho hunting license. There is no bag or possession limit on rattlesnakes in Idaho.